Hey, good morning everyone, Tractorman 44 here. Hey, it's that time of year again. Actually, we're running a little bit late this year, but that's okay. But it's time to go ahead and clean the shop out, which I've already done, and set everything up for butchering. We've got 2 hogs coming this weekend, so we got to do things like reassemble the Biro meat saw. Here's all the parts and pieces here to go to that. Get that all ready. This is going to be the main butchering table again, of course. Here's all the meat boxes we got to get all cleaned out, and this right here is going to be one of the trimming tables right here. Got to get the Hobart grinder assembled. That's just quick and simple, but we have to clean everything first. You know, it's been setting. And of course, we got to get the butcher knives out and make sure they're touched up nice, and then assemble this beef tenderizer you see sitting there on the left of that table. Then of course, I've got to get that plexiglass covered butcher block top on installed on my elevated stand. This is what we use for our packaging table. We'll set the vacuum sealer on one end and then carry the trays of meat over, and then have the ladies will be doing the vacuum sealing with this. But that sets on top of this hydraulically elevated table. And unfortunately, I've got to take my 2 vices off in order to set that butcher block top on and secure it to the sides. So it's going to take me just a little while to put all this stuff together and get it arranged the way we need it. And then I'll come back and we just kind of take a look, see what it looks like prior to getting it all full of blood and guts. Actually, there's no blood and guts. We get the hogs already cut in half, gutted, and of course scalded. We used to do that. We did that for years and years and years ourselves. We gave it up a while back, so now we just bring the halves, put them in the cooler, and then process them 1 half at a time. Now, for you guys that are unfamiliar with meat cutting bandsaws, they're basically the same as other bandsaws, but they're different. But anyway, we take them apart every year because I have to transfer them and put them in the walk-in cooler, and it's much easier, much safer to transport this without the potential for falling over and snapping something or breaking something on this. By the time we got this thing, it had already been broken in a couple of places, and we don't want to add to it. But at any rate, essentially, you take this guy here, and drop it right down in there, just like that. Next thing is going to be the upper wheel. Biro and Hobart are the 2 main manufacturers, but this is an old Biro. I have to think it's probably in the early 60s. But if you take a look at the wheel, up here you've got a set of hooks. We got it marked for 118-inch blade, that way we don't forget. And on the back side of this bearing, here's this thing right here that's got little extensions sticking out the side. This rotates. This actually has the cleaner, the scraper on it, so that it continues to scrape all the bone meal and maybe the pieces of fat and everything, scrapes it off so that you don't get the tensioning of the blade doesn't start slipping whenever that gets accumulated. So that's responsible for that. But pick this up. It's a little heavy. Stick it right up in there. And just rest it in there, and you'll notice it'll go like this. That's part of your wheel alignment. Next thing, you got to put the blade on. You don't want to damage the teeth by banging it against the sharp piece or the pieces of metal. It's a slow process. Very well, guys that do it all the time can do it in a couple of seconds. We only do it once a year or so, you know, so it takes me a little while. But I don't want to bang it all up and dull these prematurely, so I'm going to go ahead and fight this on, and then we'll come back and take a look at the installed blade. So see, it starts out simple enough, but the bottom part's a little bit more of a problem. So down there on the bottom wheel's got another scraper right there to scrape the bone dust and the fat. Over here, you can't quite see it, but right down there is a set of scrapers. They're spring steel scrapers that actually scrape the blade behind the teeth to clear more debris. The blade actually has to pass through a guide right here, and then because the potential exists to damage the teeth if it kind of runs forward, we have a replaceable neoprene guide that folds down right there, as well as another guide up top right there. So once the blade's on the wheel all the way around, once you know you got your blade on all the way around both wheels, take a look down here and you see this guy here with a set of notches, and you got a handle. You pull this down. I like to open up the notches because I don't want to wear it. But as I pull down on the handle, you'll see the mast rise. Then when you get near your tension, then you can go ahead and let it lock down and verify that it's going to track true by turning the wheel by hand a few revolutions, and then adjust your tension again. So go ahead and make a few revolutions at a slow rotation, just to make sure everything is tracking and everything's going through the guides, and then go ahead and put a final adjustment. Okay, once you're at that point, you can pretty much assume that everything's going to track fine. We're now ready for the stainless steel worktop. It'll only fit one way, so you got to be careful doing it. there's that. Now, time for the roller table. Then we install the roller table. It's got roller bearings, and it's got a clip that fits over top of this neoprene. So that should fit right down into here. And it should pass right beside the blade. Then it has a stop right there. Just as you clear the cut, it automatically stops up there. Now we have a little sheet metal tray that sets on top of the motor, because all of that bone dust and scraps and everything will fly right down on that motor. So this here tray catches all that material. This was a 3-phase machine whenever we picked this thing up in St. Louis a great number of years ago, and I converted it over to a single phase. But we do have a magnetic starter and everything that goes on it. Now it's time to just put the doors on, and we are just about ready to go. The hinges are simple. Nothing but stainless steel with a couple of pins right here. And this is one of the components that was actually broken whenever we brought it home. You can see how it was turned over apparently, and that was the weakest point. But those pins just slide right down inside there. And there it is. So now I got to put the lower door on, which is no big deal. And then go ahead and get the electric radiator and hook up the magnetic starter, which has a 110 volt coil and then 240 volts for the actual machine. Set this thing in place next to the main table, and we're ready. Now, for those of you that may not understand or know how a tenderizer works, a tenderizer has dozens of little knives, just as sharp as can be. And there's 2 rolls of these knives, and as you drop your whatever you're wanting to tenderize down through here, it'll go ahead and slice. Depending on how many times you drop them through, they will slice that the tendons and everything in that meat to tenderize it. We don't use it too much on pork. It's mostly a beef thing, but we're going to have it ready anyway. Those go down into there, you turn the crank, and those knives, as you can imagine, are going to be intersecting and cutting all those tendons. But then to make sure it doesn't get all wrapped up, you want to go ahead and slide these guys down in here. Those are like guides. Those will slip down through there so that the meat doesn't get wrapped around the roll. Install the bearings on top, and then drop this guy on top right here and attach it with the 2 bolts right here. Those go on the inside. There you go. Now they'll stay right there perfectly where they need to stay. Now this goes down over the top. Whoops. With the slot for the crank. And there's two nuts, or 2 bolts that go in right there. Well, here's everything set up pretty much the way we're going to be using it. That's the main butcher table right there with the buckets on it. The buckets are nice clean buckets. We'll put the trimmings in to bring over here to the trimming and grinding table. This here's the main trimming table. The trimmings right here will go straight into the grinder. Those buckets will come over and dump on the table. We'll cut the rest of the fat off and go ahead and grind them. This is of course the Biro meat saw right there. Whoever's going to be the head butcher Saturday is going to be standing on that corner right there. He'll have his meat saw and his knives on the little table behind him, and then it gives him great access to the Biro band saw right there. And of course you can see the Hobart meat grinder. We got aluminum wash pans under the meat grinder. Of course, like I said, that's the trimming table. Over there is the tenderizer. Got a few chairs around, and then this right up here is the butcher block table that's going to be serving the vacuum sealer. That's a Weston CG. They call it a CG or a commercial grade, but I don't know if it is or not. It is a pretty good sealer though. And of course we'll have quite a few homemade butcher knives. Some of them are skinning knives, but a lot of them are boning knives and trimming knives. We have those ready for whoever's here to help us give a trim. And then some of the guys bring their own knives. Like I say, that's it, man. We're ready for some pigs. And as a matter of fact, I just got the phone call. I got to go pick them up 8 o'clock in the morning. They would be using a pig poker, and we're going to be going ahead and setting them in the cooler. And then they'll chill down again for another 24 hours then until Saturday morning. So, you know what? That's the end of this one here, you know. And this is Trackman 44. I'm out here, guys.